Hello, world. I'm your host, Peggy Anne Salz. Brian Baglow is, of course, on the road doing something amazing, finding some great guests. But we are here and we have MENA top of mind. And why wouldn't we have that exactly as our top topic? Because that's what's happening this week. We have our Dubai event kicking off this week, and we're looking at MENA and we're talking to MENA experts. And we do both today because we welcome Miikka Lindgren. He is VP Publishing of Sandsoft. Of course, as you know it, the global mobile first game developer, publisher, and investor headquartered in Saudi with satellite organizations in Helsinki, Barcelona, Shanghai. That's why we're going to get a MENA view and a global view with an expert. And I have to say, Miikka, great to have you. And you're coming to us, I believe you are in Helsinki. Is that right?
Thanks, Peggy. Nice to be here. Yes, actually, I'm in Helsinki, or actually, literally in Espoo. It's a city nearby to Helsinki. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Well, I said a global view. So let's start with the news first, right? Because when I told my colleagues over at pocketgamer.biz, it's like, yes, we do have news, the NetEase deal. Give me some background on that if you can. How did it come about? Maybe you were instrumental in making it, who knows? And what is that about these two companies partnering?
So in brief, what we have been seeing, first of all, is that if we kind of look at the whole picture, the holding group that we are part of has been working in China and with Chinese companies for years. And obviously, there's a connection between the holding group and China as in that way that we have been searching and connected with the Chinese gaming companies since the start of the company. The second thing is that we have been seeing that a lot of Chinese companies have more interest on the MENA region than maybe on Western companies. So there's a lot of Chinese companies having now entities set up for the MENA region, and they are exploring that market and exploiting that market far earlier than other Western companies. And for us, obviously, it was very important to find the right partner that we can work together to exploit the market better. And we are happy to work with the NetEase to have this joint venture together.
So you said it yourself, a very interesting focus on MENA from Chinese companies. Why do you think that is? What do they see in MENA? Because you have to say, everybody wants to see that global success coming from the Middle East, wants to see that region really take off. It has a ton of potential, but it seems to me as if they're seeing it more than maybe others are.
Yeah, I think the mentality of the Chinese gaming companies is that they are more risk taking and they are
Hmm.
more like interested to explore new opportunities. And that's why they have been very early in the MENA market. So I would say that already around maybe not to 10 years ago, but 5 years ago, they started to have their localized and culturalized versions of their games in the MENA market. And they have been in the market for many years already. They have been capturing that market potential, especially on the genres like Forex strategy and first person shooters. Those are the main drivers for the growth and revenue in the region. And those are
Mhm.
pretty much occupied by Chinese gaming companies nowadays.
When you say localization and actually culturalization there, that's why I'm talking with a bunch of different people, developers, studios, even indies saying that, it really does pay to have local language, local culture games. Is that what you think is going on here? That it's not just the focus of being not eager, but let's just say interested in the region, considering risk, looking at it not being too risk adverse, but also localizing the content.
Yeah, so I said that the Chinese companies have been taking the first mover advantage. So they realized already the potential of the market way earlier than other companies, particularly in these two genres. And what they are doing really great is that they are doing proper not only the localization of the game but culturalization of the game. And by culturalization, I mean that they are running local live operation events that are meaningful for the market. They also have local characters. They have even local themes for the game. So they are really doing that needed work for making the games having a better market fit for the region. And we see the results. They are pretty much dominating the charts in MENA market, and the investment what they have been doing is paying off for sure.
Kind of interesting if you think about it, Mika, because I mean, it isn't. rocket science. It isn't a blueprint that we haven't talked about many times when we look at the opportunities in MENA and PocketGamer.biz in particular. A ton of articles about this series, reports about the region that says, you have to have local games, culturally relevant, physical and virtual events. It's just interesting, maybe astounding, that it's a straightforward blueprint and China's the one following it.
I would say that it's probably a question of resources. So we know that Chinese companies have much more manpower than the Western companies. So if in Western companies we are talking about hundreds of people or maybe maximum thousands of people, these Chinese companies, they operate always with the thousands of people, and they have the resources to actually operate separate versions of the games that are targeted for the region, where Western companies don't have that luxury, and they are then focusing on the regions that they have best knowledge and where they have resources to support.
Makes sense. That is true. They can throw a lot more at it. And also, looking at the Middle East region, it's overall, MENA. You at Sandsoft, your main focus remains sourcing games to be published in MENA or globally through your co-development partners. You obviously want to be and are on your way to being a global publisher, but we're not seeing a local success, or a global success come out of MENA. What do you think it's going to take companies in the region to break out and onto the world stage? Because I have been talking to some studios there with some really smart games, very successful in local market, but not yet on the global stage.
I would say that there's two type of companies in the region. There are companies that are only focusing for the MENA region because they see that that's a better opportunity for them to tackle because they have a know-how on the market itself that they feel that they have a better chances of succeeding. The second thing is like for the Sandsoft itself, we are experts of global publishing. Many of us have been working for big franchises, and our target is to make games for the global audiences. Of course, we will be publishing games also in the MENA market, but
Mhm.
if the platforms are giving us a possibility to publish games globally, why wouldn't we use that? Why we would limit ourselves to the MENA market only? So we see now that through this joint venture, we can divide our focus to two different areas. Like we have a joint venture that is helping not only NetEase, but other third-party companies to exploit the MENA market better by providing all that support regarding localization, culturalization, marketing, and live operation of the games, even running esports events. And then Sandsoft itself is a global developer, publisher focusing on making and publishing games for the global market. Of course, the games are published in the MENA region, but that's not the specific focus of ours because we want to make games for the global audience.
And speaking of Sandsoft, maybe you just want to bring me up to date a little bit on that. You have made acquisitions. You opened your Barcelona studio to that. And what's going on over there? What's new?
So in Barcelona at the moment is our second biggest site. So obviously we are headquartered in Riyadh in KSA, where we have some of our central functions, and we have our game studio there. So we have at the moment around 20 people working in the game studio developing games. And then Barcelona was our second site where we are now building not only some of our central functions, but also publishing function and then our studio function. And under the studio function, we are doing internal game development, and we have the first tribe already prototyping the first games that we would be market testing during this year.
One of them is Business Dude, right? Or is that coming out of a different?
Business Dude is actually a game that is developed by our partner. It is a
Okay.
third-party game that we are publishing. But the
Hmm.
same company is also a company that we are working on the co-development with another project. So it is just extension of our partnerships of publishing something that they have been developing their own, and then we have another project that we are doing co-development with them.
And just overall, out of curiosity, the staff, what numbers do you have? What do you employ now? Because, of course, we've gone through a phase where either companies were growing or they were reducing. Which side did you land on?
We are growing really fast. So
Okay.
every time when someone is asking that how big are you, I need to check the latest numbers. So at the moment we are 70 plus, growing really fast. I would say that on a monthly basis, we are around 3 to 5 people having kind of a joining to Sandsoft. We are growing especially fast now on Barcelona because Barcelona will be one of our key destinations for game development and also
Oh,
for the publishing functions. And
mhm,
reason that the Barcelona is interesting site for us is that first of all it is an attractive site to have talent coming in because of the weather. Obviously, weather is really nice. The other
mhm,
thing is that there's certain tax advantages for the people moving to Spain to work there. And there's a lot of gaming companies already in Barcelona. So the talent
mhm.
pool that is available in the regions is really good. And that are kind of the main reason for us to actually have our setup there. And as we see at the moment that Barcelona is probably the fastest growing site from our side at the moment for the
Mm.
reason that there's a lot of talent that is available for what we are needing for our growth.
Speaking of growth, when we were speaking in prep, what I really admired is that you are focused on game publishing because that's what you do, that's what you're responsible for, but you're also looking very closely at marketability and what it means to think about cost per, but also think about LTV, about balancing those two sides of the equation, your short-term metrics, your longer-term targets and wins that you need to have profitable growth. Um, Help me understand what studios can learn or borrow here from your approach. What is your approach to make that balance? And what do you think is, yeah, something that we can apply elsewhere? Because, of course, this is within Sandsoft, this is your approach, but I think it's applicable everywhere.
I think that the recent changes in the market has been showing that the marketability of the game is becoming the most important thing because of
Mm,
the difficulties on the user acquisition. And the only way that you can verify that you are on the right path is that you test a lot. And what does this mean for us when we are developing games internally or doing co-development or working with third parties is that everything will be validated with the real audience, with the real players. We are not doing guesswork. Every decision that what we are making is based on the market data. So if the market data is saying us that the people are not liking the game, we know that we have what we have to fix. If we are
mm,
seeing that the user acquisition costs are too high for this game, we need to figure out that how we can lower that. It's a number game pretty much, and we need to understand that how the market is working for this particular game, what is the audience that is attracted on this game, and then do our decisions based on the game design and marketing that how we can maximize the potential of the product.
What did you bring with you from Rovio to your current position? Because it's a very data-driven approach, and I welcome it because it is what is going to make it possible to continue and to grow in this market. I mean, growth in a growing market is very competitive. What did you bring in terms of skills? Maybe something that we're not thinking about, something that isn't immediately obvious, or maybe you're just very, very much into perseverance.
I think like the lessons learned during my Rovio career was really that the think globally, think big, because nothing is stopping you thinking big. Good example was that Angry Birds Space was launched together with NASA from the space station in the space. So you can do all of this stuff if you dream big. It's just you need to figure out how to execute it. The kind of main things that I brought to Sandsoft was that we changed our focus instead of focusing only for MENA, that we started to focus on global market. Because I said that it's better to focus on billions of people than hundreds of millions of people because it increases the likelihood of success because you can always find an audience for your game if it is globally published. Then
Hmm.
the second thing is that obviously Rovio was very eager of testing various things. So we were doing a lot of prototyping. We were doing and investing a lot of things for different genres to figure out that how we can diversify our portfolio of games that what we were developing and publishing. So all of those things I have been trying to bring back to to the Sandsoft, that we need to also think about that. Yes, you need to do a lot of testing and experimenting to find that success. And then when you find that success, you can double down on that. But it takes some time to find that success. So you have to have a lot of experimentation and exploitation.
And in a way, a category creator is what I would say. Have that mindset, think big. And one thing we're seeing is we're seeing different categories because we're seeing a mixing and mashing of models. And we've talked about it before, but I'd like to dig a little deeper into the in particular how the Chinese are mixing and mashing the models to create habits, really create habits in gameplay and generate cash. And here we're talking about hybridizing game design, 4X and casual gameplay. They're gluing it together somehow. They're making that work. Um, are other regions and studios going to have to play catch up here, or are we going to maybe use that as a blueprint and find a better way?
I think, unfortunately, I have to admit that the Chinese companies are doing much better work than Western companies on finding the recipe of success in the current market. When I started to work with the China market and with Chinese companies, they were known for copycats, that they were copycatting things, and there was no innovation. But now, if you look at the Chinese companies, what they're doing on the game development, it's amazing. So we have to almost like look at that what they are doing. Like they are innovating more than what we are doing, and that is something that is very admirable. That they are taking more risks in a way that they are trying to build new genres, mixing different things together to find that marketability angle, that how you can make games that are attracted by wider audiences than one single game design what you have. And there's a lot of recent examples in the market where Chinese companies have been able to glue almost two different game designs together so that you're attracting two times bigger audience than what the one game design only. And that is the recipe of success, that you have very attractive game that can be played no matter what your demographics are. And by that, you are lowering the CPI, you're increasing your also your organic. So they are really smart on thinking that how you make even more complex games more marketable and easier to enter, because you are making a more, let's say, more casual approach for the game design.
I'm listening to you explain that, Miikka, and I'm thinking back to a number of webinars and other projects I was working on and moderating. And I would speak with the games marketers, the UA managers, and they had initially like a fear of mini games. It was like, well, if we put out this game, then we're bringing an audience in, and then we show them a different game, and that might be a disconnect. And now we're talking about basically Chinese mixing these models and sort of bringing you in on a maybe a casual lure, as it were, and then unpacking a 4X game in the middle of that. So one of two things, and I'm asking you because you're the expert. So either the marketers I was speaking with a year and a half ago were too cautious, or the Chinese have a different approach and they were right, and the Chinese are just doing something very different, very innovative. But it feels as if we could have grasped this earlier. We're maybe, Western studios, maybe the cautious ones here.
Yeah, I like if you look at now that I also have a fear of kind of fake advertisement, that you are driving people to the game that are then disappointed that they are not actually seeing the gameplay that what they saw in the advertisement. I think that is decreasing. You see more and more these games actually embedded part of the gameplay. So the playable ad, what you have been first exposed to, you see that similar gameplay in the actual game that you start playing. And there are even some examples that are showing data that people like more that kind of a game that was advertised, the simple game, than the core game that is embedded in the game. So people are having kind of a, let's say, they play that simple mini game more than the core game that is actually behind that mini game. And I don't know if it is good or bad. At least you are increasing your DAU, and if you have advertisement running there, for sure you can make money there, and possibly some of the players that are more interested on that more complex gameplay would be then moving to that complex gameplay and monetizing even further there.
So it's almost like the game is there and you can make it what you need it to be. All the elements are there. And You want to stay in the sort of less complex gameplay? There it is. Dive in. If you want to go deeper, it's there too. And it doesn't seem to be a contradiction that it was a while back, which is interesting. That may open up some opportunities and may open up how studios need to think about mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I said earlier that marketability is the king here, and if you are finding mechanics that are attracted by the users, that will be the way of getting players to play your game and getting engaged. And then you just need to figure out that what type of onboarding you are building for them. Do you want them to only play that mini game, or do you want them to start playing the core game that is behind that? So I think that if we look at like the most recent example of the Chinese game called Legend of Mushroom,
Mhm.
it is a game that looks very casual on the top, but when you enter the game, you can see that there's multiple different game modes. There's almost like something for everybody. So you can find your way, or you can find your game that you're interested. You don't have to play every game mode that they have, and that's
Mhm.
the luxury that you are almost feeling that you are entering in the supermarket and there's a lot of things that you want to buy. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
things that you are interested on. So I think they are doing really great job on making that let's say games fitting for each and every player, and you can find something that you are attracted. If you don't want to play against other players in a PvP mode, you can play PvE mode. So there's kind of feature for everyone.
I like the analogy of supermarket. Absolutely. You go in there and you pick what you want. Keeping with that analogy, I'm also just curious because I'm talking to a number of publishers who are very bullish about that precise idea that there are more alternatives where their game can be, right? You can look at Steam, you can look at alternative app stores, you can go on device. I mean, it's up to you. Sky's the limit, or is it? Are you excited about alternative channels?
We are mobile first gaming company, so I would say that we are interested on developing and publishing games that are originally developed for mobile. If that game is a cross-platform, meaning that it has a PC SKU or console SKU, or you can be playing it on a web browser, that's okay. But it needs to be mobile first. That's the kind of the strategy for us. And all these alternative distribution channels then for the mobile SKUs outside of like a, let's say, Google Play ecosystem that they are Huawei and Samsung, etc. All of those are additional distribution platforms for your games when you have, let's say, already a game that is showing success. It is just exploiting that success further that you can have alternative distribution platforms for your game. But I
Mhm.
wouldn't consider that they are maybe the entry platforms for you, that you only specifically develop games for those and then later on for Google Play and Apple App Store. It's more or less that those are additional distribution platforms when you have already unlocked success on those main two platforms on a mobile.
Well, we started off with MENA, so I'd like to go full circle and close on that. Current opportunities and challenges in the wider MENA region. What is your pick? Give me maybe one, two, one opportunity, one challenge you see facing the games industry in the wider MENA region.
I think that the opportunity is obviously the good audience, meaning that audience that is willing to convert and spend money on games. We see good numbers, particularly in KSA, that there's a lot of interest towards gaming, and you can see that the people have a spending power that they will kind of consume money on games. Then, if you look at the maybe the challenges is still the size of the market, meaning that it is still, we are talking about around 600 million players. So those 600 million players are exposed to multiple different games from multiple different gaming companies. So there's a fierce competition out of that audience. And especially we know that there are certain genres that are highly popular in the region that are forex strategy, first person shooters, and tabletop games. If you do anything outside of those, it will be smaller, as a business opportunity. But then if you do anything for these three, you would be kind of facing fierce competition coming from these big Chinese companies that already have their products in the market.
What about Sandsoft as well? You know, we talked there. I hinted at the game you have in soft launch, Business Dudes. What can you share about what's coming up, your plans for 2024, initiatives, projects, games we need to be watching on the horizon? What should we be looking for when we look at Sandsoft?
So we are very aggressive on our growth. So we are at the moment running multiple market tests on the products. Some of the products are developed by third parties, which we don't own, but we would like to gain publishing rights if they pass our market test. Then we have also our own co-development projects on games that we are owning but are developed by third-party companies. So we are also doing market testing for those. Our plan for this year is that we would be releasing more games during the second half of the year. So hopefully all of the market testing what we are doing now during the second quarter of this year will be resulting soft launches and commercial launches on the second half of the year.
And that's when we'll also see Business Dudes, right? That's on the horizon as well.
Yes,
And what kind of
exactly.
game is that?
So Business Dude is an arcade simulation game where you are running different businesses. It's a kind of your entrepreneurial dream. You start by running a hot dog kiosk, and then you grow your business to run a cafeteria, and then you have uh, uh, car service place and you have a zoo, etc. So there's multiple different businesses that you would be then running later on when you go further in the game. And I think this kind of demonstrating the entrepreneurial experience that you run business, you unlock new opportunities to open new businesses. And everybody are dreaming kind of building businesses and becoming someday a tycoon of multiple businesses. And that game is simulating that really well, that how do you run business, how you allocate resources in your business, and eventually there will be some meta game elements where you can then use all that wealth that you have been generating through your businesses to buy some assets for you that you would be desiring. Is it then a mansion, or is it an airplane, or is it then a yacht, or whatever that you could be dreaming of if you would be a billionaire?
And working to earn it. That's something. That's something fascinating as a concept. A little bit like you, actually, Miikka, because I was looking at what you've been doing, and of course your posts and your presence on LinkedIn, and of course everyone's more than a title. And I noted that your colleagues call you out for your superpower, which is focus, um, which is exciting. That's what you need. But the flip side of focus, and I was just bringing this in because literally I'm doing some research. I'm reading a book about Steve Jobs at the same time, and he's talking about how focus is really not focus. It's being able to ignore the 100 or so other great ideas and stay focused on this. So you have to understand not just to be able to focus and concentrate, but to resist the temptation and remain focused. How do you do that? How do you not give into the temptation of maybe 100 other amazing game ideas or market ideas and remain focused on your game plan, what you're doing at Sandsoft?
So first of all, I have a great team to work with that helps me to make the right decision as a team lead. And the second thing is that, as I said, that we are relying data. So data will be telling us that what are the right decisions, what are the focuses that what we need to have. So it's not me kind of doing guessworking that let's go to that direction, let's go to that direction. It's more or less that hey, let's validate with the real users that what is the right direction that what we need to take, and then we take that direction. So we are very data driven. We do a lot of testing, and we believe that that is the only way to find that growth for the company in the future, and that's our focus. So we focus on the growth, and the growth will be achieved when you find the right products, right companies to work with.
I like that very much. I mean, we know Steve Jobs, it was more gut feeling, but there is something to be said for the humility of sort of understanding that data tells an honest story. I mean, it's not one source of truth for nothing. It's really understanding that, yeah, prove it with data, and then it is proven.
I'm a strong believer on kind of a data driven approach that it's not like you should be blindly looking at, but you should be, let's say, data informed, meaning that data will tell you something that will be helping you to make the right decision. You shouldn't be like blindly looking that, okay, well, the retention is bad, but the reviews are good. That you make the decision because of the poor retention. That, okay, I'm not going to publish the game because of the poor retention. You have to believe then that the company is able to fix the retention issues and monetization issues because you already have a good sentiment of the users that they like the game. So those are things that you have to always balance. That how do you look at the data? What type of decisions you are making?
And having that longer term view, not long, but longer, and that balance, which I think there's a lot to learn from you, Miikka. We also want to learn from our guests. When we close, we ask every guest two questions: your favorite game you're currently playing, and your favorite game of all time.
So my favorite game that I'm currently playing, or actually I stopped playing just a while ago, was Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 is a console PC game made by a Finnish gaming company called Remedy Entertainment. I'm very much driven by these story-driven horror games for some reason, and that game was something that I have been waiting since the release of the first Alan Wake, and only for the reason that it was so, let's say, hard for the hardware requirements. I needed to update my computer only for the reason that I can run the game. So it was an
Okay.
investment from me to actually see that what is the level of immersion that you can see on the console uh, quality games as of today. On the mobile space, I play a lot of hybrid casual games because those are the games that we are focusing as a company as well. And
Hmm.
probably the latest game that I have been playing a lot is still Survivor IO, because I think like it is really explaining really well that how you
Yeah.
can still have a game that looks very casual is still making like hundreds of millions of revenue.
Yes.
So you shouldn't judge the game based on the look. You should be looking at the numbers,
Yeah.
because if you only look at the how it is visually built, you would say, oh, it's a small game, no one is playing this. But then you look at the sensor tower or data AI data, and you see, oh, boy, it's making 300, 400 million. So it is amazing to see that sometimes the look and feel of the game doesn't kind of restrict or say that how big the game can be.
Yeah. It's the mechanic, and a lot to learn there. What about your favorite game of all time, Mika?
Well, on the console side, I was really addicted to the Max Payne series and Halo. Those were the games that I was really interested. Both of those games are story driven once again, and especially the Max Payne series was developed by Remedy, the Finnish console gaming company that is also behind the Alan Wake 2. Um, on the mobile side, obviously, I have to say that Angry Birds, because I was one of the very first people that saw the first prototype of Angry Birds, and I was at the time working for Nokia,
Oh,
and the story of the Angry Birds is so fascinating that it was just a technology demo initially, and I was actually managing a project where this technology demo was part of. So I had a chance to see and experiment that as a first time, and I think the game got so popular for the reason that it was hitting the right wave. So it was hitting the right wave of showing that what would be definition of a mobile gaming for touchscreen, because it
mm,
was only playable on touchscreen. It was never ever doing well on a keypad or Xbox or console or PC, because the gameplay was originally designed only for swiping, and that swiping is only possible with the touchscreen.
I was betting that we were going to have a Rovio answer for the game of all time, and I have to agree. And I have a personal story of when Peter Westerbacher came to a dinner and had the idea, and he was flying it, just like, "Hey, I've got this great, this is what's going on," and we're like, yeah, he was ahead of his time. It was ahead of its time, and we were all wrong at the dinner, I have to say. Some stories to share. Love to do that again, and maybe have you again on as well on pokergamer.biz. Mika, it's been a delight, and you have so much to share. I think we'd benefit from having you back. So thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks, Peggy. It was a great time.
This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter @PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future.